Natural history is the research and study of organisms including plants or animals in their environment, leaning more towards observational than experimental methods of study. It encompasses scientific research but is not limited to it, with articles nowadays more often published in magazines than in academic journals. Grouped among the natural sciences, natural history is the systematic study of any category of natural objects or organisms. That is a very broad designation in a world filled with many narrowly focused disciplines. So while natural history dates historically from studies in the ancient Greco-Roman world and the medieval Arabic world, through to European Renaissance naturalists working in near isolation, today's field is more of a cross-discipline umbrella of many specialty sciences. For example, geobiology has a strong multidisciplinary nature combining scientists and scientific knowledge of many specialty sciences. A person who studies natural history is known as a naturalist or natural historian. Definitions: historical. The English term natural history is a translation of the Latin historia naturalis. Its meaning has narrowed progressively with time, while the meaning of the related term nature has widened. In antiquity, it covered essentially anything connected with nature or which used materials drawn from nature. For example, Pliny the Elder's encyclopedia of this title, published circa 77 to 79 AD, covers astronomy, geography, man and his technology, medicine and superstition as well as animals and plants. Until well into the 19th century, knowledge was considered by Europeans to have two main divisions, the humanities, and studies of nature. Studies of nature could in turn be divided, with natural history being the descriptive counterpart to natural philosophy, the analytical study of nature. In modern terms, natural philosophy roughly corresponded to modern physics and chemistry, while natural history included the biological and geological sciences. The two were strongly associated. During the heyday of the gentleman scientists, many people contributed to both fields, and early papers in both were commonly read at professional science society meetings such as the Royal Society and the French Academy of Sciences both founded during the 17th century. Natural history had been encouraged by practical motives, such as Linnaeus' aspiration to improve the economic condition of Sweden. Similarly, the Industrial Revolution prompted the development of geology to help find useful mineral deposits. Modern definitions of natural history come from a variety of fields and sources, and many of the modern definitions emphasize a particular aspect of the field, creating a plurality of definitions with a number of common themes among them. For example, while natural history is most often defined as a type of observation and a subject of study, it can also be defined as a body of knowledge, and as a craft or a practice, in which the emphasis is placed more on the observer than on the observed. Modern definitions from biologists often focus on the scientific study of individual organisms in their environment, as seen in this definition by Marston Bates. Natural history is the study of animals and plants, of organisms. I like to think, then, of natural history as the study of life at the level of the individual, of what plants and animals do, how they react to each other and their environment, how they are organized into larger groupings like populations and communities, and this more recent definition by D.S. Wilkove and T. Eisner, the close observation of organisms their origins, their evolution, their behavior, and their relationships with other species. This focus on organisms in their environment is also echoed by H. W. Green and J. B. Luzos. Natural history focuses on where organisms are and what they do in their environment, including interactions with other organisms. It encompasses changes in internal states insofar as they pertain to what organisms do. Some definitions go further, focusing on direct observation of organisms in their environment, both past and present, such as this one by G. A. Bartholomew, a student of natural history, or a naturalist, studies the world by observing plants and animals directly. Because organisms are functionally inseparable from the environment in which they live and because their structure and function cannot be adequately interpreted without knowing some of their evolutionary history, the study of natural history embraces the study of fossils as well as physiographic and other aspects of the physical environment. A common thread in many definitions of natural history is the inclusion of a descriptive component, as seen in a recent definition by H. W. Green, Descriptive Ecology and Ethology. Recently, several authors have argued for a more expansive view of natural history, including S. Herman, who defines the field as the scientific study of plants and animals in their natural environments. It is concerned with levels of organization from the individual organism to the ecosystem, and stresses identification, life history, distribution, abundance, and interrelationships. It often and appropriately includes an aesthetic component, and T. Fleischner, who defines the field even more broadly, as a practice of intentional, focused attentiveness and receptivity to the more than human world, guided by honesty and accuracy. These definitions explicitly include the arts in the field of natural history, and are aligned with the broad definition outlined by B. Lopez, who defines the field as the patient interrogation of a landscape while referring to the natural history knowledge of the Eskimo. A slightly different, but equally expansive framework for natural history is also implied in the scope of work encompassed by many leading natural history museums, which often include elements of anthropology, geology, paleontology and astronomy along with botany and zoology, or include both cultural and natural components of the world. The plurality of definitions for this field has been recognized as both a weakness and a strength, and a range of definitions have recently been offered by practitioners in a recent collection of views on natural history. History, Ancient Times. Natural history begins with Aristotle and other ancient philosophers who analyzed the diversity of the natural world. From the ancient Greeks until the work of Carolus Linnaeus and other 18th-century naturalists, the main concept of natural history was the scala naturae or Great Chain of Being, a conceptual arrangement of minerals, vegetables, more primitive forms of animals, and more complex life forms on a linear scale of increasing perfection, culminating in our species. Natural history was understood by Pliny the Elder to cover anything that could be found in the world, including living things, geology, astronomy, technology, art and man. De Materia Medica was written between 50 and 70 AD by Pedanius Dioscorides, a Roman physician of Greek origin. It was widely read for more than 1,500 years until supplanted in the Renaissance, making it one of the longest-lasting of all natural history books. Medieval natural history was basically static through the Middle Ages in Europe, although in the Arabic and Oriental world it proceeded at a much brisker pace, when the work of Aristotle was adapted rather rigidly into Christian philosophy, particularly by Thomas Aquinas, forming the basis for natural theology. In the Renaissance, scholars returned to direct observation of plants and animals for natural history, and many began to accumulate large collections of exotic specimens and unusual monsters. The rapid increase in the number of known organisms prompted many attempts at classifying and organizing species into taxonomic groups, culminating in the system of the Swedish naturalist Carl Linnaeus. From the 13th century, the work of Aristotle was adapted rather rigidly into Christian philosophy, particularly by Thomas Aquinas, forming the basis for natural theology. During the Renaissance, scholars returned to direct observation of plants and animals for natural history, and many began to accumulate large collections of exotic specimens and unusual monsters. Leonhard Fuchs was one of the three founding fathers of botany, along with Otto Brunfels and Hieronymus Bock. Other important contributors to the field were Valerius Cordus, Konrad Gessner, Frederick Roux, or Gaspard Boyen. The rapid increase in the number of known organisms prompted many attempts at classifying and organizing species into taxonomic groups, culminating in the system of the Swedish naturalist Carl Linnaeus. Birth of scientific biology. A significant contribution to English natural history was made by Parson naturalists such as Gilbert White, William Kirby, John George Wood, and John Ray, who wrote about plants, animals, and other aspects of nature. In modern Europe, professional disciplines such as physiology, botany, zoology, geology, and paleontology were formed. Natural history, formerly the main subject taught by college science professors, was increasingly scorned by scientists of a more specialized manner and relegated to an amateur activity, rather than a part of science proper. In Victorian Scotland it was believed that the study of natural history contributed to good mental health. Particularly in Britain and the United States, This grew into specialist hobbies such as the study of birds, butterflies, seashells, beetles and wildflowers. Meanwhile, scientists tried to define a unified discipline of biology. Still, the traditions of natural history continue to play a part in the study of biology, especially ecology, ethology, and evolutionary biology, and re-emerges today as integrative organismal biology. Amateur collectors and natural history entrepreneurs played an important role in building the world's large natural history collections, such as the Natural History Museum, London, and the National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. Three of the greatest English naturalists of the 19th century, Henry Walter Bates, Charles Darwin, and Alfred Russel Wallace who all knew each affair each made natural history travels that took years, collected thousands of specimens, many of them new to science, and by their writings both advanced knowledge of remote parts of the world the Amazon basin, the Galapagos Islands, and the Malay Archipelago, among others and in so doing helped to transform biology from a descriptive to a theory-based science. Museums. Natural history museums, which evolved from cabinets of curiosities, played an important role in the emergence of professional biological disciplines and research programs. Particularly in the 19th century, scientists began to use their natural history collections as teaching tools for advanced students and the basis for their own morphological research. Societies. The term natural history alone, or sometimes together with archaeology, forms the name of many national, regional and local natural history societies that maintain records for birds, mammals, insects, fungi and plants. They may also have microscopical and geological sections. Examples of these societies in Britain include the Natural History Society of Northumbria founded in 1829, British Entomological and Natural History Society founded in 1872, Birmingham Natural History Society, Glasgow Natural History Society, London Natural History Society founded in 1858, Manchester Microscopical and Natural History Society established in 1880, Scarborough Field Naturalist Society and the Sorby Natural History Society, Sheffield, founded in 1918. The growth of natural history societies was also spurred due to the growth of British colonies in tropical regions with numerous new species to be discovered. Many civil servants took an interest in their new surroundings, sending specimens back to museums in Britain. Other examples of natural history societies are American Society of Naturalists and Polish Copernicus Society of Naturalists. See also. References. Further reading. External links, A History of the Ecological Sciences by Frank N. Edgerton.